I stand in the spotlight, with thousands of eyes shining before me and a roar of applause that pierces the heart. People see success, the movies that changed Hollywood, and think, that was easy. They don't know how many times I fell, how many doors closed in front of me, how many times I was told, "You'll never be a star." They didn't hear the roar of the streets of Hong Kong, the smell of spices, and the smoke of the factories where I grew up. They didn't see a little boy hitting wooden sticks in empty rooms, dreaming of becoming strong. I went through fear, rejection, discrimination, pain, and doubt. I felt like the whole world was against me. But that's what made me stronger. Every blow of fate, every step back, lit a fire in me that could not be extinguished. And now, when you see me here, at the peak of fame, you should know, this path did not begin with the light of the spotlight. Now let me tell you everything from the beginning. Let me show you the narrow streets, the bustling markets, the first defeats, and the small victories. Because the real story is not just about glory, but about the struggle that made me who you know me. I was born in Hong Kong, amidst the bustling streets, where the smell of spices mixed with the smoke from the kitchens and the roar of the factories. A small boy in this chaos seemed so tiny, and I was often ridiculed because I was weaker than the others, because I fell faster, because I cried louder. In those moments, I felt useless, a stranger, almost invisible. And yet, a fire burned inside me. It was fueled by my first martial arts lessons. I remember picking up a wooden stick for the first time, listening to the blows on the tatami, feeling the rhythm of the movements and the discipline that permeated my every step. Here, in the small halls, amidst the smell of sweat and leather, I felt a power that transcended fear and doubt. Each blow was not only a workout for the body, it was an exercise for the soul. Each movement taught me resilience, mindfulness, control, courage. But martial arts are not just about punches and blocks. They taught me to understand people, to recognize their energy, to anticipate their intentions, and most importantly, to not let fear control me. It was here, amidst these lessons and defeats, that my philosophy began to take shape. True strength is born when you unite body, mind, and spirit. Every day I fell and got up, felt pain and disappointment. But with every blow, with every workout, I became stronger. And although at that time I did not yet know that the world would one day see me on the screen, I felt that every step, every movement, every defeat was a small step towards my big dream. I remember my first move to America. I dreamed that my talents and martial arts would be appreciated there, that I would find my place, that the world would open doors for me. But instead I was faced with indifference and misunderstanding. In Hollywood at that time, there was almost no place for Asian actors. I was rejected from role after role, and almost every casting ended with the words, "You are not suitable. We are not looking for someone like you." It was humiliating. I felt like a stranger, alone and helpless. But I still had an inner fire, and I did not let it go out. I spent hours in studios showing the moves, the punches, the philosophy of martial arts. But instead of captivating people, I often received only skeptical looks and cold smiles. Many thought, this guy is crazy. An Asian in Hollywood? It's not real. Sometimes I wanted to stop, fold my arms, say, okay, you're right. But I saw myself in the mirror as a little boy standing in a narrow room in Hong Kong and feeling that I could do more. And then I understood, rejections are not the end. They are a test of strength of spirit. During this period, I realized that martial arts are not just punches or blocks. They are a way to prepare yourself for life, a way to survive crises. Each training session became for me not only a physical test, but also a lesson in patience and self-control. I perfected my movements, experimented with techniques, combined speed and accuracy, and at the same time learned to hold my head high, even when all the doors were closing in front of me. There were times when despair almost won. I saw other actors get the roles I dreamed of getting, and I felt bitter that the whole world was putting barriers in my way. But I never lost faith in myself. My philosophy that body, mind, and spirit should work together helped me hold on. I realized that true strength is not in applause or credits in movies, but in the ability to not give up when everything is against you. And it was during these crises that I began to form my own style, Jeet Kune Do. It was radical, not to follow the old schools, not to copy the movements of others, but to create something of my own. Many did not understand, criticized a lot, but I knew this is the only way to achieve true mastery. Every blow, every step, every lesson became my response to the world that tried to break me. These first crises taught me the most important thing. Defeat does not stop those who are ready to learn, who are ready to transform fear into motivation, who see opportunities where others see only closed doors. And although the world seemed impassable at the time, I already felt that this struggle was shaping me, preparing me for what was yet to come, and that one day my path would not only change my life, but also the world around me. After all the rejections and defeats, I decided to go it alone. I opened my own martial arts school in the heart of America. It was a small studio with wooden floors, mirrors on the walls, and the smell of sweat, leather, and paint. And although it was modest, for me it was a place where I could show my vision, where my martial arts philosophy could come to life. The first students came with curiosity and doubts. They did not know that I was not just a teacher of punches or blocks. I taught them to feel themselves, to feel the movement, to see the energy of the opponent, but at the same time to control their mind. Many came only with the desire to learn how to fight, but stayed because they felt something more, the power of discipline, the depth of concentration, the joy of victories over their own fears. I remember the first day I taught a class, the ringing sound of the tatami mat being hit, the students breathing rapidly, the rustling of the movements in the mirror. I would demonstrate the movements and then have the students repeat them, making them feel every stroke, every step, every position. And I would see them hesitate at first, then fear turn into confidence. It was an incredible feeling to see a small change in them, because I put my heart and soul into each movement. But this path was not easy either. Some colleagues criticized me, saying that I was too radical, that my style was unconventional, that no one would understand my philosophy. Sometimes I was left alone with doubts, looking at the empty studio after classes, feeling tired in my arms and legs. But I remembered my childhood again, that little room in Hong Kong, where I used to beat a stick and dream of a big world. I understood. If I give up now, then all these dreams and all the difficulties were in vain. These first steps forward taught me the main thing. It is important not only to have talent or skill, but to be able to transfer them to others, to create a space where self-belief grows. I saw how each student revealed himself, how a small success in the studio became a big victory for him. And for me, it was a sign that I was on the right path. It was a time of small triumphs, when I didn't yet have the fame of Hollywood, but I felt that I was influencing people's lives, that my path was beginning to shape something more than just punches and blocks. I felt my own crises and defeats turning into strength that I passed on. And in that moment, I understood. True success is born not from applause, but from the ability to lift others up and lead them, even when we ourselves are still learning to stand on our own 2 feet. These lessons prepared me for the next stage, a great transformation, when my principles, my style, and my philosophy would begin to change not only my life, but also the entire world of martial arts and cinema. But first I had to strengthen my faith in myself, to prove that a small school, a few students, and stubbornness could be the beginning of something incredible. My youth was not at all like an easy path to a dream. Some people see me today as a smile, a stuntman, an actor, a person who turned danger into art, but few people know what my childhood was like. I was born in Hong Kong, to a family that was not at all rich, and grew up in dormitories where thousands of families were crammed into tiny rooms. It was not a fairy tale, it was survival. My father worked at the embassy, my mother worked in a factory, and I understood from an early age that life would not give me anything for nothing. At the age of 3, I was sent to the Chinese opera school, and it was there that the path that hardened me forever began. Imagine a small child who is forced from morning till night to stretch his body, stand on his hands, do acrobatic tricks, sing, dance, practice kicks. There was no pity, no rest. There was only discipline. If you couldn't, you were punished. If you made a mistake, you were beaten. It was a world where weakness had no right to exist. I fell, cried, wanted to run away, but something inside made me get up again. And so, day after day, my body turned into an instrument, and my will into armor. But the most important thing that the school gave me was a love of movement. I learned not only to fight, but also to feel the rhythm, to see the beauty in jumping, balancing, falling. I was exposed to martial arts that were more than just punches. It was the art of life. I learned kung fu, acrobatics, techniques that bordered on the impossible, and even when my whole body hurt, I understood, this is mine. At school, I met those who later became my friends and brothers on stage. We jumped together, fought, shared pain and dreams. There I learned not to be afraid of falling, because every time I fell to the ground, I knew I could get up. These skills eventually opened doors for me in the film industry. At first, I was just a stuntman, a shadow of other actors, a person who risked his life for someone else's fame. I performed dangerous stunts, jumped from roofs, flew through glass, fell from heights, and all this without insurance. I saw others receive standing ovations, and my name was not even mentioned in the credits. But you know what kept me going? The belief that one day people would see not just a stuntman, but a person who could combine martial arts and cinema in a way that no one before me had done. I was compared to Bruce Lee, and at first it was like a burden. Everyone saw me as just another fighter, but I knew I had to find my own voice, my own style, my own story. Bruce was a legend, but I didn't want to be his copy. I wanted to be Jackie Chan. And to do that, I had to go through pain, humiliation, failures, and falls, which hardened me even more. My life in those years was a constant struggle, for a place in the sun, for recognition, for the right to be myself. And although it seemed that I was just a small cog in the huge film industry, I felt one day I would change the rules of the game. I came to Hollywood with the dream that I would be understood here, that my martial arts, my style, my energy would find their place on the big screen. But the reality was different. Almost every casting ended in rejection. I was called too oriental, unconventional, unappealing to the American audience. I walked around the studios, showed strikes, revealed techniques, demonstrated speed and strength, and saw only skeptical looks. I remember the first big film I was cast in. The work was minimal, almost a scene without words, and my skill seemed too much for them. I felt disappointed. My heart was burning. My soul was dripping with sadness. Every day on the set was a test. Injuries, blows, falls, and no one saw what I put into my movements. I stood there and thought, maybe I chose the wrong path? Maybe all these rejections mean that this is not for me. And then I was overcome by a deep crisis. I could have left everything behind, returned home, opened a school, lived quietly, but something inside me wouldn't let me. My inner fire reminded me of my childhood, the cramped rooms of Hong Kong, the blows with a wooden stick, the first training sessions when my whole body ached. I realized that if I gave up now, all these years of training, falls, and defeats were in vain. That's when I started to radically change my approach. I didn't want to be just an actor with fighting tricks. I wanted to show the world martial arts as a philosophy, as a way of life. I started to create my own style, Jeet Kune Do, not to please the critics, but to show that art can be free, flexible, and real. Every movement, every punch, every step had meaning, and I felt that even if Hollywood didn't understand it, someday people would. It was scary. It was hard. I was at a crossroads, staying in the safe, familiar world, or risking everything for my own vision. And I chose to risk. I took responsibility for my life, for my craft, for my dream. I refused to be just another stuntman or extra in the frame. These first big failures taught me the main thing. A crisis is not the end, but a test of your determination. Rejection is not a signal to retreat, but a chance to become stronger and wiser. When the world says no, you need to learn to hear your yes inside. And it was when I fully accepted this philosophy, when I stopped depending on other people's opinions, that the first breakthrough began. My path was far from straight. I fell, I got hit, I faced humiliation, but it all became part of my strength. And in that moment I realized that the real fight is not against others, but against the fear, doubts, and limitations in my own heart. And finally, the moment came when everything started to come together. My skill, my determination, and even the defeats that seemed like they should have broken me started to work for me. The world saw more than just an actor. It saw a man who changed the way martial arts was perceived, who showed that movement could tell a story, that punches could speak louder than words. My first real breakthrough came with the film The Green Hornet. I knew it wasn't just a role. It was a chance to show my philosophy, my vision, my art. Every shot, every kick, every jump was the result of years of training, falls, disappointments, and inner struggle. I remember standing on the set, my heart pounding, my hands shaking, and the cameras recording my every move. And when the premiere happened, I felt like the world was starting to notice. People were applauding, the audience was laughing, they were admiring. And for me, it was a sign that my art mattered. But the real breakthrough came with Shaolin and the Grandmaster. Here I was no longer just demonstrating strikes. I was telling stories through movement, through breathing, through the rhythm of the body. The audience felt what I experienced as a child: struggle, pain, falling, rising. My style of Jeet Kune Do became a symbol of freedom, rejection of limitations, and finding your own path. The world began to see me not just as an Asian actor or stuntman, but as an innovator. Hollywood had to admit, here he was, someone who didn't follow the rules, someone who made new rules. My philosophy, which I had developed for years in small rooms in Hong Kong, was now influencing people all over the world. Of course, this path was not smooth either. There were always skeptics, always someone saying, "It's too dangerous, it's not commercial, it's not realistic for the mass audience." But I learned to turn criticism into energy, doubts into blows and movements, fear into speed. Every scene was not just for the film. It was for me, for that little boy who wanted to prove that a dream can become a reality if you don't give up. And then I understood the most important thing. Fame and recognition are not the end. They are not a goal in themselves. They are confirmation that your struggle has meaning, that your principles work, that your art can change the lives of others. I looked at the audience in the hall, at the smiles, at the eyes shining with delight, and understood. All this is the result not of talent, but of perseverance, faith, and willingness to take risks. And that's when I decided, don't stop. Every film, every movement, every scene is another step forward. The world is just beginning to see that it is possible to combine art, philosophy, and physical strength, that it is possible to change the rules without breaking yourself. Life can be incredibly short, even for those who seem invincible. I stood at the top when the world recognized me as an innovator, a man who changed cinema and martial arts. But a body that had withstood so many falls, blows, and hours of training was not limitless. And even when it seems like you have everything under control, life can take another path. I remember the last days. The headache that wouldn't let go, moments of loss of concentration, the feeling that something was wrong. I tried to hold on, to work, to create, because my heart was full of dreams, and my soul was full of lust for life. But one day it became clear, this world was leaving me faster than I wanted. And yet, even in my darkest moments, I felt at peace. I knew I was leaving behind more than just movies and fights, but something more. I was leaving behind lessons, a philosophy, the idea that strength comes not just from muscle, but from the spirit. My life was short, but every hour was filled with meaning, struggle, and passion. I would like people to remember that falling is not the end, fear is not an obstacle, and doubt is the fuel for strength. My body is gone, but my art lives on. My students, my films, my books, my philosophy, all of it keeps moving forward. Every stroke I practiced in a small room in Hong Kong now lives in the hearts of people around the world. My death is not a collapse. It is a reminder of the value of time, of the importance of every moment. Do not put off life for tomorrow. Do not wait for the world to recognize you. Take it now, fight now, move forward now. For true greatness is not in triumph on stage or in the credits of a film, but in the ability to leave behind something that will outlive you.